Is U.S. manufacturing ever going to come back to the United States? Or is it something that we should hope for? Is it important? What do you think about U.S. manufacturing?
Controversial and complicated. Who knows? I don't know. I don't. It's a mix between logical slash objective, like reasoning, versus political, right? Now, people. I think what you need to understand more importantly, why did U.S. manufacturing leave the country? Okay, so interesting question. Because, okay, look at Detroit. What happened to Detroit? What happened to the U.S. auto manufacturing industry?
Failed.
I'm old enough to remember in the 90s, right? When I was like in college, before college, right? Like studying about this whole buzz about anti-Japanese, of influx of Japanese cars and, ruining manufacturing here. But you got to look at the bigger picture. Why? What happened? Why, like in the 70s, for example, when Japanese cars were introduced here, something caused the lack of competitiveness in the U.S. manufacturing industry. It was cost and the quality of the product, right? You can also use the example of Sony and versus RCA back in the day. This is like an MBA case study. RCA is American, right? You don't see that brand anymore. They used to make TVs and all that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden they got killed by the Japanese, right? Sony TVs and stuff like that. Why? Why did we lose our manufacturing base? My personal opinion, really, okay, and this is based on everything that I've read, it's just my opinion from what I understand, is we became less competitive in a certain product, right? Now just walk into Walmart today. Walk into a Costco today. Where's everything made? Where? That you buy? Made in China. Why? Those things that used to be made here are now made in China. Why? For a very simple reason. Why?
It's cheaper.
It's cheaper, right? And for like the automobile example is why there was an influx of Japanese automobiles in what used to be dominated by the Americans, is the automobile industry. Why? Right? Cheaper and
better quality.
Better quality, right? So at the end of the day, consumers choose what's the best value, right? So that's the driver of manufacturing wherever it may be, whether it be here domestically, Mexico, in China, whatever it is. There's a lot of implications that affect manufacturing. There's tariffs, government, subsidies, you name it, all sorts of different things, right? But, primarily, we lose our manufacturing base really because we are no longer competitive either in price, cost, or quality of the product, right? An opposing example would be aircraft, defense products, military. We're still the best, right? Boeing's still an American company. The only one competitor we have is the Europeans, which is Airbus, right? You're not going to go in, the Russians manufacture their own airplanes, so does the Chinese. They're kind of knockoffs, but are you going to get on a Chinese jet? Is a major airline going to buy a Chinese jet? Fuck no. No, right? Because they don't have that track record, that reputation. Well, again, Boeing now, you don't know. Look at what's going on. But anyways, it's a different conversation. But whether manufacturing should come back or not, there's no real straight, simple answer for that. Is it more, manufacturing leaving the country usually is something that the consumers drove. The consumers drive it. What kind of car do you drive?
German.
What kind of car your friend? Every one of your friends. You know anybody driving an American car?
No.
Why?
Maybe I'm from Missouri. Everyone drives American in Missouri.
But why? But why? What's the issue here? It's the cost and the value for your money, right? Yeah. So consumers are saying we want better products for lower cost all the time. Consumers always want the biggest value, the best value for the best bang for their buck. And what happens in the manufacturing of those products? There's a competition between manufacturing it locally and foreign. What's the consumer want? What's the consumer going to buy, right? So my view is, if it's cheaper to make it somewhere else and it's lower cost and equal or better value for the consumers, that's where the product should be manufactured. That's competitive advantages. That's like a key concept in business, right? Things should be produced where they're cheapest to produce with the highest quality, right? And
Can we make that happen here again?
No, I don't think so. You know, do you call it, if you look at like the changes in economies over here, we've pretty much, I mean, this is old business school shit. We've pretty much gone from a manufacturing-based economy to a service-based economy, right? You know, okay, look at the top manufacturing companies like in the last decade. I mean, the top companies in the US, what are they? The top companies.
It's all tech.
What does tech produce? You can't hold something. Technically, yeah, your iPhone and all, but you know, Apple's kind of like a products company. But Microsoft, right? Tesla's a car company, right? Nvidia chips and all that, right? It's
like intellectual property.
Exactly. We become a knowledge economy versus a service versus a manufacturing based, production based economy. You know, so if you look at look at Detroit's been suffering forever. This is what happened right now, right? The unions wanted more money. You're going to make the car more expensive. That's what happens, right? Is it going to be better quality? I don't think so, but it's just going to be more expensive because the cost of manufacturing it, you know, human resources are going up, right? So a lot of times what happens in the past is factories, companies like, hey, I'm building this thing over here and my cost is going up for labor, for whatever in the US. What do they do? They move their factories over the border to Mexico because it's cheaper. Now, if you ran your own company, right, and you sold, you would do the same. Right? Now, if you're the consumer, you like it too.
Cheaper car,
same quality or better, right? So to me, there's no answer to it. You know, yeah, the people, you know, the folks that build the car or in that manufacturing base, whether it be cars or whatever the other products, if it gets moved offshore, they're hosed.
Everyone's out of a job.
Not everyone. Well,
in
yeah,
that industry.
But it's how markets work, right? If you study economics, you know a product should be produced where it has the best competitive advantage of being produced, or the advantages of lower cost, higher quality, whatnot. It's what the consumers want, you know. So how do you bring back manufacturing over here now? If you remember, like real world examples I've experienced with my clients. You know, I had a client that was importing products from Vietnam right before COVID. The whole business was, this is a positive story of manufacturing. The whole business was importing products from Vietnam, right? And COVID hits. And what happened during COVID?
Supply chain issues.
But what's the biggest problem? The freight cost.
Yeah.
Went from like $5,000 per container to $25,000. All of a sudden, the guy's business like, shit, man. My business is completely no longer sustainable when my shipping costs went up 500%. So what did he do? He bought, you know, the company, transferred all their manufacturing over here. They bought machines to make their product here. Because in that economic situation, it was cheaper to produce the same product here than it was to import it from Vietnam because the cost of bringing it over is that expensive. Right? So there are all these forces that determine whether manufacturing should come back here or not. My point really is if the government starts using tariffs, you know, I mean, I'm in the, I'm of like my background in education is tariffs are bad in economics. It's just bad because it's not a market-based control. You're putting an artificial control into something, you know, so to try and bring manufacturing back. But in the situation I just told you, it's pure market forces. Cost of shipping went up. Okay, then I bring the manufacturing back. I still can deliver to my customers and make a profit here, right? So the question of whether should manufacturing come back depends. You know.
Got it.